If you turn to page 10, and we'll march through, and our covenant is we'll stop at 1 o'clock, and we'll see how far we get. There's in the healthcare system, I don't know if you've ever heard of this parable. It's used in sort of describing different levels of care. Story of three friends who are out, and there's this waterfall, and they see a baby that is hurtling towards the edge of the waterfall. One friend jumps in and rescues the baby and takes it off to the edge, and then they notice, there's more babies coming down the river, hurtling towards the waterfall. And so that first friend, he's there just grabbing babies and throwing them off the edge. And that's described as sort of crisis management, when you have to get involved, otherwise game over. But the second friend, he goes further up the river to form a raft, going backwards and forwards, and that's your sort of early detection before you're in crisis. And then there's the third friend who disappears further up the river, and the other two friends are like, "Mate, where are you going? We need you here." And he says, I'm going upstream to find out who's throwing babies in the river, and I'm going to ask them to stop. And that's your preventative. What does it look like to grow in a healthy way that you're not heading towards the waterfall in the first place? So that picture of crisis management, early detection, preventative measures that you never get there. I guess the two roles I have is, one is pastor, one is therapist, and to be honest, both of those seem to be sitting at crisis level. When all else has failed, the conversations start to come, and it breaks your heart. And so one of the reasons why I do these sort of things is just to get a little bit further upstream, that instead of waiting until the wheels fall off, waiting until you're at crisis point, wouldn't it be amazing if actually we were trying to figure out how to help marriages flourish, rather than always spending our time trying to fix marriages that have been sitting in a mess for a decade? Does that make sense? And so that's one of my passions with this soul story stuff is, we will always need the crisis management, but my plea is, wouldn't it be amazing if actually we gave some focus to making relationships flourish, and so spend less time trying to fix the messes that are in the wake. And if I can fire these out, I say I do a fair bit of Christian counselling, and one of the biggest areas, if you maybe pop those back, is parents struggling with kids whose emotions are all over the map. We just pass those back, and I love doing it, and it's a joy to help families who are struggling with it. But I often wish I'd just love to have these conversations before the mess happens. And so if you've got one of those flyers, we do in-person stuff like this. We also do some of the online stuff. And there's one coming up in December, and it's trying to get ahead of things. And we'll be talking about that emotional awareness and trying to figure out, rather than focusing on sitting with a kid who's in a total mess, what would it look like to breathe life into these kids emotionally? Like, we are hoping that the next generation go off and make disciples of all nations and protect those who can't protect themselves, and seek the peace and well-being of the community to which they've been called, and provide for their own household and look after the church and look after the wider community. And actually, if they're in such a mess that they can't even look after themselves, what is the Ephesians 2 verse 10 of the good works that he has prepared in advance for us to do? I'd love us to be raising a generation that can go and do those good works, rather than being crippled by emotions that have just wrecked. So do you ever think about that if you're up for it? And I'd love to tackle Michael and Sarah. If you're there on page 10, I don't know if you've swapped seats or if you've been brave enough to stay with the person and people you were talking with before. Don't take it personally if someone has moved. I would like us to try and thrash some of this through and to figure out, okay, we see how Michael and Sarah are wired differently and how they experience the world differently. What would it look like to go back on this journey and try and change some of the curves in the path? Okay, and if you're at the bottom of page 10, I'd love this side of the room to talk about the hide or seek at the bottom of page 10, and this side to talk about the speak or not at the top of page 11. And let me explain what those are. There's a time to seek out the problem and not hide from it, to kill the monster while it's small. And you look at the book of Proverbs, and it's like, keep watch, keep guard. The prudent see danger, and they take refuge. The simple keep going and pay the penalty. And I'd love you to picture a little baby dragon, looks so cute. That wee baby dragon is going to grow up to burn your house down. And it is much easier to deal with it when it's this wee small thing. Because when it starts burning your house down, you're going to have to deal with it. But it's a whole heck of a lot harder. But the flip side to that, top of page 11, there's a time to be silent and not speak, knowing when to let things go. Fools show their annoyance at once, but the prudent overlook an insult. Right? Now, there is this tension in marriage where sometimes we let problems go that are little baby dragons, and those problems are the very things that will destroy our relationship. But we try and deal with them, and we go through that cycle, and we get all annoyed with each other, and then when things go quiet, it's like, I just want to enjoy the peace. And it's like, no, don't settle for a quiet life when there's a moment of peace. That's the very moment that you have to go after it and try and fix this. Not when the mist is flying and the anger is going. You're not going to fix anything then. But once it's done, don't think, well, it's quiet, I don't want to kick the hornet's nest. No, you got to kick the hornet's nest. That's when you got to go after it, and that's the only time that you actually stand any chance of fixing it, when people are calm and ready to talk. And so there are times where there's something going on in the relationship, and you've got to see that's a baby dragon. And we could deal with it now. But if we let that thing grow, it will burn our home to the ground. But there are other things. And it's not a dragon's egg. It's just a chicken's egg. And actually, if you keep going at everything, it's exhausting and exasperating. And sometimes you just need to leave stuff. Not everything has to be dragged into the family court to be dealt with. Some things can just be left. And it is amazing how we often get those wrong. And there's real big stuff that we just leave. And there's real little stuff that we go after and we go after and we go after, and it's exhausting and it's miserable. And where you make your money is clocking which one's which. What's a baby dragon and what's just a chicken's egg that just needs to be left? You with me? And so what I'd love you to do is this side of the room here, bottom of page 10, there is a baby dragon that grew through this whole story and destroyed this marriage. And it is what happened when they had their third child and Sarah was depressed and Michael went to work. They haven't recovered from that. I would love you to play with how could Michael have dealt better with Sarah's depression? Like, can I give you a clue here? If your answer is that overnight he becomes the world's finest psychotherapist and is able to walk her out of that, you're wrong, okay? That's not the answer. With who Michael is, what would it look like for Michael to help her in that mess? Something that's realistic and might actually have helped their relationship, or as she's come out of it, how could he talk to her about what happened? The second thing, there's another baby dragon. I don't know if you noticed it. When he comes looking for sex, she dismisses him. That's a baby dragon that could be dealt with. And if it's not, will grow to be something that burns their house down. How could Sarah have dealt with that? Those are two really hard questions, so peace be with you, okay? You guys over here, a time to be silent and not speak, when to let things go. Were there things in the story that Sarah did go after, but should have just made less of a deal about it? And if there were, why was it so hard for her to let them go? Is that okay? So could you take, let's go 6-7 minutes. You guys on page 10, hide or seek with the dragons. You guys on page 11, speak or not speak. What are the little things that Sarah could have left? Okay, so take 5-10 minutes, tear away, and then we'll feed back some thoughts. Okay, if we want to pull some of those thoughts back together. So you guys here, when to go hunting, find a problem that is a baby dragon and slay it before it burns your house down. How could Michael have dealt with Sarah a bit better? Fly. One at a time now.
One of the things that our group has said is just that it could have just been there.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to say very much because he doesn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know what needs said, but just be there.
Like, that's so important. It's not just that Michael doesn't know what to do. Like, Sarah doesn't know what she wants him to do. It's not as simple as, Sarah, what do you want me to do? And I'll do it. She doesn't know, and that's the perfect storm for a man. You can't tell me what to do? Okay? And in that state, she doesn't know what would help. Yeah. So,
one of the things came out of our group was we were thinking, well, we should have said, well, I don't know what to do, and you don't know what to do, so how can I help you find a way of helping you?
Yeah.
And looking for the right help rather than thinking he should fix it.
Totally. Yeah, good.
So you need an appointment with GP. So we need help.
Totally. And even some of that initiative of, it's very hard for a man to say, I need help. And you see that with the church. You would have longed that he took the initiative to say, we've got ourselves in a bad habit, a bad routine. Actually, I mean, we should be at church anyway, but even if it's just for the sake of the marriage, maybe going to see some folk who could with the GP as well. It'd be lovely if he took some initiative to try and help, yet on the understanding that some of the initiative that he takes she may not like. And if he takes that initiative but gets it wrong, I don't know, maybe he rings her mum to come and talk to her, and she has a funny relationship with her mum that she already feels like a failure, and he's taken the initiative to say, mother-in-law, come talk to daughter, and she blows. So play with something here. If you forget for a second about Michael fixing this problem, because the fellas are so tuned to, okay, if I can't fix it, who can fix it? We'll fix it by proxy. Okay? I'd love you to play with often why something happens matters more than what happens. Why something happens matters more than what happens. When our kids were really young, I was running a big event, and I needed Tanya home bang on time to take the kids so I could go and do it. And we talked about this is programmed on a knife edge. We need a tag. You come in, take them, free me up, done. So I need you home, okay? And she was like, no problem, I'm going to be home. And 45 minutes before she was due home, I got a phone call to say, Colin, I'm 40 minutes out. I'm ahead of schedule. I'm like, brilliant, well done, sweetheart, you got this. I've got a flat tire. I was like, no problem. Change it. You got 5 minutes, you got this. And she's like, Colin, I've never changed a tire before. I was like, what do you mean, woman? You've been driving a car for years. You've never. Who changes your tires? I was like, I don't know. It's never happened. I've never changed it. And she's like, I'm so sorry. Listen. I'll do it. I know where the spare wheel is, and I know where the jack thing is. With the jack thing, can you put it anywhere underneath the car? I'm like, can you what? No, you can't just put it anywhere under. It's the leave the jack. In fact, set the jack down. Step away from the jack. And just call the breakdown recovery people and tell them that you need them to change their wheel. Yeah, they're your wheel. And I'll get these kids sorted. And eventually she comes, and she's late, and we've had to arrange it. And when she finally gets there late, do I stand there and say, you betrayed me? When I needed you most, you weren't there. Or do you give her a hug and say, I'm going to teach you how to change wheels? But imagine, same scenario, and 45 minutes out she phones me and says, Colin, I just decided to stay at work late. I've got a few extra papers to mark. Sort yourself out. What? And she arrives late, and I've had to sort out the kids with someone else. And she doesn't even ask, did you get sorted? Can you feel the difference? Like, one is a smile and a joke, and the other one is, I do not trust you. And I would be terrified to ever be in a position of need and ever depend on you. If you treated me like that in this scenario, I am terrified to entrust myself to you. One is a laugh and a joke, and one is our marriage is not in good shape. And yet, in both situations, she did not make through on her commitment. In both situations, she, in inverted commas, let me down. But they are worlds apart. And so often we fellows are like, how do we fix it? Actually, I don't even want Tanya to fix my car. She'd make it worse. I love her to bits. Just leave the car alone. Okay? Sweetheart, I don't need you to fix my car. But I do need to know why you turned up late. And with Michael, we will always go to, well, if I can't fix it, how do I get someone to fix it? Do you know what Sarah needs to know? She needs to know why. And I would love it if Michael would figure out how to say some stuff that would actually help, or whether he should go to GP, or whether he should go to mother-in-law, or that would be lovely. But the biggest thing I want Michael to get is to talk to Sarah and say, never felt so helpless in my life. If I could take this from you, I'd take it in a heartbeat. If I could run across this country and back and it would fix it, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And I don't know what to do, and I don't think you even know what you want me to do. But whatever this journey looks like, I will walk with you every step of the way. And he hasn't fixed a flipping thing. And yet he's fixed everything that he needs to fix. That so much of it is about why, not about what. We can actually endure a whole lot of tough what if the why is right. And I would love Michael to get to the point where he can actually do some fixing. Super. I would love my wife to get to the point where she could change a wheel. Super. It's not my biggest concern. It's that he knows how to talk to her to explain the why. And until he does, rightly, she doesn't know if she can entrust herself to him. Is he only interested in her when she's strong? What if I get weak again? Will he be out that door? And I can guarantee you, all the other stuff that we're going to talk about doesn't matter a jot until that dragon is killed. And Michael has a big fat question mark hanging over his head in Sarah's eyes. Can I trust this man? Now, if that's dealt with, then oh my goodness, we can make progress in some of the other stuff we're going to talk about. But until that dragon has its head chopped off, nothing else is going to work. And let me tell you, that dragon is a whole lot easier to kill when it's 3 days old than when it's 13 years old. You saw the other question. How did Sarah deal with the sexual tension? The simple reality here, see while that first dragon is still alive, their sex life is going to die. Simple as. Their sex life will never recover until that dragon is dealt with. Because she cannot entrust herself to him, which makes sex very hard. I don't want to spend too much on this. We do a whole seminar day simply on spirituality and sexuality. If you think some of the stuff we've talked about is sensitive and hard, actually sexuality within marriage, there is a world of stuff going on. And so I'd love to even just park that one of, if that's a conversation, I'd love to have it another time. But spirituality and sexuality are so tied together, and it breaks my heart how. Do you know the way in culture we say culture has sexuality wrong, and we literally have the book. And what breaks my heart is often in Christian marriage, sexuality is dying. But let me pause that for a conversation for a different time. For this one, I would love you to see there is a dragon that you need to go after. And the sooner you go after it, the more hope there is that this marriage can be saved. For you guys, the opposite side of that wisdom is a time to actually zip it or make less of a deal of something. I'm going to assume that some of that dragon slaying has happened, right? And the story is still bubbling along as you read it, but everything that you've come up with will not work unless Michael deals with her fear of why wasn't he there, okay? So let's assume they've had some chat and she understands, okay, you're not a monster, you didn't abandon me, but I'm still very hurt, but we're going to work this through. In the story, are there a few things that you wish Sarah could have just left? Shout them out. Gosh, yeah. Yeah. She should have left. And can you see how that is bubbling away? Because this dragon, the resentment she has towards the career, yeah. What else could she have gone easy on? Oh yes, yeah. When he took a day off to look after the kid and did it all wrong. Yeah. How could she? This is for everyone. How could she have handled that? So what did he miss? He didn't tidy up the toys. He didn't put the kid down for the nap, and he's out giggling in the mud. The eczema thing. Okay, and she comes in, and she just sees. Assuming they've done some repairing of the early depression years stuff. Okay, so assuming they're in a decent spot, because if they haven't dealt with this, everything he does is through the lens of you don't care about me. Okay? Which is why she finds it really hard to let the small stuff go, because the small stuff could be just little symptoms of that big thing. Why did you not put the kid down for the nap? Is it because you don't care about me? Why did you not tidy the toys? Is it because you don't care about me? Do you understand? Everything is filtered. So let's assume that that's being dealt with in some sort of way, but she still comes home and the toys are still a mess, the kid is not napped, and the mud is going to send the kid's eczema. Like, if that was your daughter or your sister, what would you want her to do with Michael? Fire out some thoughts. Yes. Yep. Yep. It's no small thing. He's giggling. Yep. What else? Yeah. Yeah. Good, yeah. Let's triage these problems at least. Yeah.
And she's also had the kids looked after for the entire day.
Yeah.
It's not just that he got some things right,
Totally. Like this did start off with him wanting to help. and he probably hasn't done it great, but he has tried. Well, what would it help her to understand about him?
When you don't do something daily, it's hard for you to do it. So he took a day off of work. That's one step.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know, he's not there every day to know how to take care of the child.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
the days in that. Actually, he won't remember even himself, but he does have.
So pause it. There's one thing where Sarah needs to give herself more credit of she's holding down a home, which is not easy. And he's off doing his thing, and he comes, and he does not have the experience that she has, and the experience that she has built up is invaluable. And the ability to manage all those things at the same time, so that whenever he comes in, he's coming in as someone with less experience. He's trying, and he is dropping a few balls. He's not getting it all right, but he is trying. There's another difference in there. It's not just that he's less experienced, he's also not a mammy. And I can't tell you how important that is. That the way a father loves his children, the way a mother loves his children is genuinely different. And when children come on the scene, there is something in a mother where both the compassion and the anxiety increases. The anxiety to see danger 3 fields away and to intercept it before it gets anywhere near this precious little bundle. The compassion that can hear a squeak and know, is it hungry, tired, soiled, or in pain? And they know it from the squeak. And the anxiety and the compassion goes up like this in a way that isn't quite the same for fellas. And it is beautiful when the kid is an infant. When the kid is an infant. And that motherly instinct to intercept every danger, to comfort every need, is a force of nature and is beautiful when it's an infant. Picture that same compassion and anxiety, not when it's 6 weeks old, but when it's 6 years old and 16 years old and 26 years old. And mummy is still seeing every danger 3 fields away and intercepting it. And still seeing every possible need and meeting it. What started off beautiful actually becomes something really ugly. I was once talking about this in a parenting course, and this lad just started laughing. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, catch me up, what are you doing? He's like, I run a business. I have a 26-year-old working for me, and he's useless. And I called him into my office to fire him because he's been with me for 3 months and he has done nothing but cause, like he couldn't do anything. And when I called him into my office and made an appointment to see him to fire him, he came with his mum. And the mum wanted to talk to say what a brilliant boy he was. And I had to tell that mum, you don't work for me, go away, get him in here. See, what starts off beautiful becomes really, really ugly. And do you know what tapers it? Because when someone becomes a mother, like if things are going right, it just happens. The compassion and the anxiety come up where the instinct kicks in and you protect it and you nurture it. Do you know what is the dimmer switch? That learns to allow the kid to fall down so that it learns to pick itself. Do you know what the dimmer switch is called? Dad. And you know what happens? Is that there's a tug of war. And as the kid starts to get a wee bit older, Dad's like, give me that kid. It's going to learn there's more to it than it thinks. I'm always like, don't. My poor little precious bean. And if things are working right, there is this tug of war that happens, and the older the kid gets, the more it moves into Dad's kingdom. And the more cuts and scrapes and bumps and bruises, and the more it learns independence. I deal with a lot of mums who've come in to counselling because their kids' anxiety levels are through the roof. And that can happen for a dozen reasons. Do you know what the most common one is at the minute? And what I want to ask and get to is, where's Dad? Because you know what happens? When the kid is a little infant, the fella is not useless, but a close cousin of it. He will not notice the difference between the squeaks of comfort and feeding and nappy and whatever. He will not pay attention to its eczema. He will not put it down for the right nap. He doesn't have the same compassion that runs to meet every need. And see, when the kid's an infant, they survive us fathers. They survive us. But see, as that kid gets older, the dads are the ones that will let them take the hits and the knocks and teach them there is more to you than you think. And if all they get is compassion and anxiety, what they learn is the world is very big and I am very small and I need to be protected. And what happens is that the dad does what the dad does and honestly makes a bit of a hash of it and does not see all the needs of an infant, and at some point they get benched. Do you know what I mean by benched? They get taken off the field of play and they get set on the sidelines of, you are a disaster at this, you get it all wrong, just stay there. And he will stay there. And as that kid turns 5 and 6, and they need someone to take them out on an adventure where they will fall down and they will have to pick themselves up, Dad's still on the bench. And they will arrive in my office at age 8 and 9 and 10 and 13 riddled with anxiety because they think the world is so big and I am so small. And the truth is, Michael, he can do better, right? Well, 1, right? He doesn't have the experience that Sarah has. But 2, he's not a mammy. And if you expect him to be a mammy, he will get benched. But he's not an idiot either. Like, if you work with him, he can learn to put the toys away. He can learn about the nap. Like, he's running a business. He can work some of this out. But there is a world of a difference between thinking, look at how rubbish you are, I will tell you all the stuff that you've done wrong, versus, in a few years, this guy is going to be exactly what this kid needs. And in the meantime, I would like to help him that the child is at least alive by the time I get home. You with me? And that's not saying just let Michael do whatever. Help him. Move him forward on the understanding that 1, he doesn't have the experience, and 2, he's just not quite wired the same way. And his wiring will come into its own the older that kid gets. But when the kid is young, there are some things that you smile and you think, maybe we'll talk about it, maybe we won't. But one of the biggest battles at the minute in families is dads get benched when the kid is an infant. And if he's on the bench when the kid is an infant, he will stay there when the kid is a teenager. and the kid will suffer. And I would love you to see the two issues we've talked about, like the depression stuff. Michael has to go after that. He has to fix that. He has to get the story right. He cannot leave that. If he leaves that problem between him and Sarah, it will destroy his marriage. It does destroy his marriage. But on this one, there's actually a time to just not speak. A time to smile and let things go, or a time to think, you know what? We're going to triage this, and we're going to do it in a way that keeps people in the game. Do those two make sense? Can you see that they have swapped them? And Michael has not gone after the dragon, and Sarah is going after this like a bloodhound. And both of them want it fixed. But they don't have the wisdom to know, what do you go after and what do you leave? I'd love you to stay with Michael and Sarah and tear away, Mark. Yeah.
Whenever you talk about the dragon and the Michael needs to go after the depression, not so much the depression as it, but Sarah's lack of feeling protected, and you weren't there for me. You can't really sort the depression.
Love it.
You can be there. That's the key thing. Again, for us, problem-oriented men, that's the key bit. The dragon.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and if he goes after the depression, he's going to make it worse. Yeah, the problem is the relationship between them over the depression. That in Sarah's mind, there's this question mark, can I trust Michael? That's what he needs to go after. Good, thank you for that. You'll see bottom of page 11. And why don't we stay as a big group to talk these through? A time to encourage, not exasperate. How do you inspire change rather than demand compliance? I hope you've clocked. There are some people who are built to be robust in a hostile environment. By definition, they have to care a little bit less about what people think of them. If you are around people who are not safe, you have to care a little bit less what they think. You understand what I mean? But you take that same skill into an intimate, safe environment and it doesn't work well. And vice versa. Okay? And one of the things I hope you've seen is actually for a lot of females, for a lot of wives, for a lot of ladies, you are starting ahead of us in terms of how to create an intimate environment. You have more skills than we have. Okay? However, there's one proverb that gets repeated throughout the book of Proverbs. And it's about the quarrelsome wife. And it's better to live on the corner of a roof, better to live in a desert than to live with a quarrelsome wife. That you are starting ahead of the game and you will see stuff that he simply will not see. In the same way, when I sit in a Hyundai accent that has been badly treated, I will hear stuff that Tanya doesn't hear. Not because it's not there. It is there. But you don't know what it is. You don't know what it means. You don't even know what to look for. So wives, you will probably, broad brushstrokes, not all the time, but broad brushstrokes, you will start slightly ahead of the curve in knowing how to create an intimate environment, a safe family environment. But the worst thing you can do is nag him. You want him to catch up. You want him to understand what it is to let the guard down and emotionally engage. But nagging will only ever bring short-term compliance. And if you want compliance, nag him. But you will drive him away. Instead, bottom page 11, what would it look like? A time to encourage, not exasperate. How to inspire change rather than demand compliance. Do you remember the household jobs. Michael's sitting at the dinner table doing the emails. Sarah has done all the cooking. Now there's the dishes, the laundry, the homework, putting the kids to bed. And she's like, would you put the kids to bed? And he's like, just need to finish this off. And she's like, "Argh! For once, I'd just love you to take some initiative and help." Okay? If she does that, I guarantee he'll put the laptop down, he'll go wash the kids. But in 6 months, did you notice what happened? He's not at the dinner table. He stays late at work. Actually, I'm so busy, I won't be put in that situation again. I guarantee he's not doing that consciously, but that is what happens. What would it look like for Sarah, right? And the amount of stuff that she has to do, and he's bringing his work home as well, for her to inspire him in such a way that actually he finishes his dinner and thinks, I'm going to see what Sarah needs. Like, sit with that for a second. Like, what magic spell would you have to wave over him that he would actually think to offer without you nagging him to do it? It's like, what spell would that be? Like, what words could you say to inspire him to do it rather than nag him to do it? Now that hurts the head, doesn't it? Like, what would you say? Okay, imagine this, right? He's there tip-tapping away, and she's like, all these jobs, and she says, would you bath the kids? And he's like, let me just finish the email. And she bites her tongue. Just finish your email, super. And then he goes and does it. And he's bathing the youngest kid, and imagine she comes into the doorway and just stands and watches him. And here's what she notices. He's using the wrong soap. There's suds everywhere. There's water all over the floor. The suds are in the kid's eyes. The kid is laughing in hysterics and crying in pain and everything between them, and they are just going to do their battleshipping as they go, and he has done everything wrong, but the kid is clean and the kid is having fun, right? And imagine she's standing in the doorway watching. She hasn't said a word. And then the kid throws some suds at him and he ducks. And it hits Mom. And he turns around and he sees her standing in the doorway. And she says, see, when I watch you taking care of our kids, I find you very attractive. And she walks away. I am telling you, those will be the cleanest children in the county. He will run home to wash those children. He will run home to wash those children. To actually hear from you that me doing this reminds you of what a good dad and what a good husband you've married. You want a man to come home, make the home the place where he is most respected. You want a man to come home, make the home the place he is most respected. And you will have clean children. And you will have a husband who is attentive to what you say. If you nag him into compliance, you will win. He will do what you ask, and you will lose him. He will find reasons to be somewhere else. And wouldn't it be beautiful to inspire change rather than demand compliance? What you don't know is that the person that Michael cares most about what they think of him is Sarah. And the chance to impress her is what he lives for. And the day that he believes that he can't impress her is the day he disappears. And my plea is, when we're talking about an environment that is about intimacy and safety, ladies, you're ahead of the curve. We are a little bit clueless. But we can catch up if you inspire us. And if you pull us along in that learning from each other rather than banging the heads against each other. And I'd love you to look at you see top page 12. Hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. That's how Sarah could handle Michael. What about how Michael could handle Sarah when he's come home late for the third time in a week and not rung home and she is livid? And come on, Michael, seriously. Now, please remember, part of this is because the big problems were never sorted and he's avoiding home. Okay? That there's a reason why he doesn't call home. Because if he did call home, he would get in trouble and he wants to focus on his work, so he doesn't call home. Okay? But let's say we dealt with some of the dragon stuff and they were actually in a good place, but he's still a bit of a dose and gets lost in his work and doesn't call home, right? And she should be like, Michael, seriously, okay? We can do better, okay? And let's say she is absolutely livid when he walks through the door. Do you notice what Michael does? First of all, he defends himself. It's not my fault. I just get lost in the work. Things are busy. And second, when that's not good enough, he walks away. Worst thing you can do for Sarah. Imagine if he walked in and she is livid. She is hopping. Because it's another cold dinner and all it would have taken was a phone call. In your mind, think, what could he say to dissolve the anger out of her and work this out? Imagine you're there. Some of us have been. Angry wife. You've done it again. If you don't defend yourself and if you don't walk away, what could you actually say? And imagine you got there and the steam was coming out of her ears. And she's ready for the tirade of, you've done it again, you're a waste of space, what are you at? And imagine if Michael comes in the door, he grabs her by the shoulders and says, Sarah, I'm a dose. I'm sorry. Take a seat for a second. Hey, sweetie, we're going to talk about this. Just take a seat. Hey, I'm going to pour you a glass of wine. I'm going to put these kids to bed because do you know what? I know I get lost in my work. But the best part of my day is coming home to see you. And I'm sorry I've messed with it again, but sit there. I'm going to get these kids to bed and then I want to hear about your day. I'm telling you, that woman would melt like butter. And the anger would dissolve like this. And if he actually talks to her and finds out about it, and then he says, listen, we got to sort this thing. I'm sorry I keep dropping you and not phoning. We got to figure out a way to fix this. And whatever little plan they come up with, she knows. He's coming home late, not because he doesn't want to. Actually, The best part of his day is seeing me. Okay. We can work on the timekeeping. We can work on that if she knows that the best part of his day is coming through that door. Again, none of that's going to happen until the dragon is dealt with. But if the dragon is dealt with, if he sees this is not really about whether or not I'm late, it's about why I'm late. And the reason I'm late is not because I don't love her, but because I'm a dose when it comes to timekeeping. Well, we can fix the timekeeping thing. And actually dropping the defense and seeing, I have upset this woman, and I'm going to take initiative and step towards it, that she understands how much I love her. And then we'll figure out how to deal with the timekeeping. But if he defends himself, it's not my fault. Ach, Michael, would you see past the anger? She wants to know, do you even want to come home? Answer that question. And so often, all we men see is the anger. And we defend ourselves and we walk away. Actually, what we need to be able to see is past the anger. What's actually happening here? That I can speak to what's going on with her. In 5 minutes, we're going to tear through a few things. If you're there on page 13, if I can plead with married couples, there are so many dragons that have never been slayed, and actually running from them never works. You've got to step towards them. You've got to fix the issues between you and your spouse, otherwise they get bigger. And so learning how to fight well, learning how to fight in a way that you're coming to a common mind rather than trying to fight your corner is like so essential. You'll see 5 things there. This is not 5 special things for married couples. I do this in everything. If you are an employee talking to your boss, if you're a kid talking to your parent, whatever it is, figuring out how to talk to them matters. And to say specifically, I want to talk about this specific thing. Please don't say, you never, you always. Talk about the specific thing that's happening. Talk about how it makes you feel, what you are worried it could lead to, what might be a better solution, and then an openness that says, listen, how do you see it from your side? Okay. Now, I'd love to walk through that with you. We've desperately run out of time. You'll see on page 14 how to be on the other end of that conversation. How to listen in a way that is open, that doesn't interrupt. The third part, actually being able to repeat it back without interpretation or explanation, and then respond. Now you'll see page 15 and 16 is a little worked example. Do you remember when they were on the sofa and she was trying to talk about her day and he kept trying to fix all her problems, and she was like, you're totally missing the point. That's a little worked example of how Peter could have received that from Sarah and listened well, repeated it back, and then tried to move forward with it. And that ability to have a difficult conversation is like one of the key things when men and women are dealing with each other, because we deal with conflict differently. So getting that recipe right. What I would love you to do, page 17, there's a few wee bits of homework that I mentioned at the start. Page 17, pick 3 qualities and 3 specific memories. Maybe one of the qualities of your spouse is that they are cheerful. And you pick a memory from Christmas 3 years ago when it was actually quite tough, but you brought such cheer into the house. Pick 3 with a specific memory of when you saw that and witnessed it in your spouse, and share it with each other. Do you know, life gets so businessy and so timetable-y and so jobs orientated that sometimes we forget to remind the person we're married to, I actually think the world of you, specifically. So pick 3 for each other and share them one at a time with a specific time that you remember it. On page 18, the speaking and the listening, trying to take one of the problems between Michael and Sarah, and you solve it as if you are Michael and Sarah. So you see the first one, Sarah speaking to Michael about how he handled her when she was struggling with the postnatal depression. Imagine Sarah saying the problem, saying how she felt during that, saying what she's scared could happen if she continues to feel like that, and giving a solution for what it might look like to move forward, and then being open to say, but what was it like from your end? And then imagine Michael being open and not saying there's nothing to see here, say, okay, I want this conversation, listening to exactly what she says, then repeating it back without interpretation or explanation. Just, so is this what you're saying? And then offering maybe this is how we could move forward. Now, I would love you to do that for one of your own problems. However, please don't do it for one of your own problems until you can do it for Michael and Sarah. Because see, when you do this, you pretend to be Michael and Sarah, you might actually start fighting with each other. Okay? Okay? Now, if you're fighting with each other over the make-believe one, maybe just pause before you go to the real one. But I would love you to try these and imagine being Michael and Sarah and playing out what would it look like to talk through this in their situation. And then if you get through those and you're like, we did it. Like, if we were Michael and Sarah, we're flying. You know, we're celebrating our next anniversary. It's coming. It's flying. Okay, then try it for yourselves. And that'll be a wee bit harder. But my plea is, do not leave here if there are dragons that need to be talked about. The last page there. Question 1. Marriages often just bumble along. If you said, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, this is the sort of relationship I'd love to have. Like, dream a dream. What type of relationship would you love to have in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is? Okay, well, what sort of relationship do we have today? And third question is, what would we have to do between now and then to go from here to there? And it's scary what can come up, because it'll be very different for each of you. But my plea is, don't leave here and think, that's interesting, men and women a bit different. I'd love you to do the homework. And the first one is nice. It's easy. Share the 3 qualities. It's lovely. The second one's tough. But you'll never be able to do the third one unless we can do the second one. Actually being able to talk about some of the problems. You've been a joy. Mark, can I finish off? Shall I pray for us? Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, that in Jesus Christ we are forgiven, we are redeemed. each made in your image, each fallen in Adam, and each redeemed in our Savior Jesus. Father, teach us what it is to respect each other with the dignity you have given us. Teach us what it is to love each other. Father, we are so different, unique in so many ways. And yet there is wisdom through the ages to speak into each of our relationships. And Lord, I ask that your Spirit would be at work amongst us, that we would do more than survive our marriages, that our marriages would be a picture of Christ and the church, that our relationships would flourish as we put sin to death and grow in love, and as we leave the simplicity of youth behind us and grow in wisdom. Lord, shape us and mold us. May we know your grace and mercy afresh every day. In Jesus' name, amen.